Welcome back to the Anxious to Secure podcast. I'm Lula, I'm your host, and today we're talking about how to heal your anxious attachment style. This is part 2. If you want to listen more, you want to go back to part 1 of the episode of this little mini-series where I talk you through how to heal your anxious attachment style in 3 ways: through your thoughts, through your emotions, and through your actions. If you're right now on YouTube, listen to this on Spotify, on Apple. I figured out when I healed my anxious attachment style about 5 years ago when I was still in London, and it really helped me to create a secure attachment style. When I had a lot of triggers, and these are 6 key areas that where I created mini transformations like emotional safety, self-esteem, inner peace. So I stopped overthinking and spiraling. And for more, go back to the previous episode. Today, we're going to really build a foundation and focus on one thing that changed everything for me in my healing journey, in becoming securely attached, and that is repetition and emotion. You probably haven't guessed that. And this is not about saying positive things over and over. It's about really understanding how repetition and emotion really work together to rewire your anxious attachment style, reprogram your subconscious mind, because this is exactly how your anxious attachment style was built in the first place. This is really the key to lasting change as well. And a lot of people always ask me, how long does it really take to create change, to become securely attached? And while I healed my anxious attachment style within 6 months, there is no normal. It always depends on, first of all, your basis, because anxious attachment styles and attachment styles in general are all on a spectrum. So you could be extremely anxious, you could be more anxious, a little bit avoidant, and to create, the secure attachment style, it depends on where you are on the spectrum. Then if you want to rewire it, how much emotional impact and how much repetition you actually create to then become securely attached again. But today you'll find out more what it actually means, what I'm actually talking about, and what it really created for me the biggest impact. And after that, I also talk about 3 habits that I realized really make a key difference, that created my secure attachment style, that made a huge difference as well. And one of the biggest mistakes I see in a lot of people and clients who come to me who tried everything, but they're doing this thing wrong. They really have to shift their focus on this one specific thing. So let's just start with this right away, okay? So the one focus area of shifting your anxious attachment style is really from them to you. Hint, hint, that's why it's called inner work. That's why it's called self-help, because the more you focus on someone else, the more you create anxiety, the more you stop working on yourself and you give your power away, and you won't be able to change other people, but you're able to change yourself. If you're anxiously attached, you are most likely focusing on the wrong thing if you haven't managed to become more secure by the time. And because the thing is, you're probably trying to focus on the thing that's going wrong, like what your partner might do next, what he's doing that is not right. Like, say you're obsessing over the text, about how many times he texts back to you, or if he has read your text, and what he's saying, if he sent the thumbs up, or if he never really says I love you to you anymore, and you're hyper focusing on these details and what your partner does or what your partner should do, whether they're pulling away from you, whether they're a bit moody, whether they're withdrawing, whether maybe they're going to leave you. And I've been there and I understand that, and that is very typical for someone who has an anxious attachment style, because you think that is the problem, that is the threat, so you have to hyper focus on this. You have to fix the problem, right? It makes sense. And I used to do really the same. I used to really live with my partner in a tiny room in London. That was now 5 years ago, and I worked really from home most of the time. And my partner worked for a period of time from home as well. And we shared this tiny room, meaning we worked in bed on our laptops next to each other trying to work and do our thing, and which was kind of cute and cozy. And when things were good, we were very productive. But when things were bad, or when my partner was a little bit moody, I was kind of hyper vigilant. I was watching him and I could not focus on my own work, and I was always focusing on what he was doing. And I didn't even notice that as much, because at that time I didn't know about attachment theory, about my anxious attachment style, and about that you have to really catch your habits to be able to stop them. So I was overthinking. I wasn't able to get anything done. I was trying to change his mood by keep asking, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? I was getting then annoyed and resentful because I thought, okay, if he's moody, that's not fair to me, and all of these things. But at the same time, I didn't realize it was my abandonment fears that was being triggered here. And because I didn't know how to stop those patterns, I ended up wasting so much energy and time being in this anxious space and place, and overthinking everything and doubting us and our relationship and always feeling uneasy. And this is where really the problem lies as well. And you are just focusing outwards on, their behaviors, their reactions, what they're doing or not doing, or what they should be doing. And the more you focus on them, the more you lose really sight of yourself. Camera is always out of focus, for fuck's sake. Okay, let me try this. So this is really where the problem lies, right? And so you're focusing outwards on their problems and their behaviors, what they're doing or what they should be doing or what they're not doing. And the more you focus on them, the more you really lose sight of what you can do on your abandonment wounds, of your anxious attachment style, on your unworthiness wounds. And you just create more anxiety because you can't change the other person no matter how many times you try. I've tried it a lot. You start just tying your emotional safety and sense of worth to their actions. You only feel good when they reassure you. You only feel a sense of safety when they're close to you, and that fuels your anxiety. But here's the thing. To heal, you need to shift inwards from external things to internal things. So you need to really stop relying on their actions to feel okay about yourself. You have to really detach from them. And I know this is very, very hard. I used to struggle with this as well, because consciously you're trying something, but subconsciously your beliefs and your emotional body doesn't feel safe to do that. You think safety is focusing on them, what they're doing, and trying to change them. And I know this is hard because it feels like their actions are giving you your meaning or validation. But in reality, that's what keeps you actually stuck in your anxiety and the situation that creates all of this fear and doubt. So how do we do this? What do we do now? You start by focusing on yourself, on your own thoughts, feelings, and needs. And it's about understanding that security doesn't come from their actions. It comes from you. It's about healing the part of you that has relied on them for safety instead of learning how to create that safety for yourself. And the thing is, with my one-on-one clients, I really go into depth on how to really do this so that it feels much easier, because right now you're only doing this with your conscious mind. But actions, 95% of your actions are driven by your subconscious mind. And that's why detaching feels so hard, because you're only trying to do this consciously. You're telling yourself, hey, I need to detach. I need to give them space. I need to set boundaries. I need to do this, but it's not going to work, because your nervous system and your subconscious mind is not on board with this yet. That's what I teach exactly, in my courses and in my one-on-one coaching containers. You can hop on a call with me to really learn more about that if you are a good fit for this, to really heal your anxious attachment style and learn all of this, to get out of this space and create really loving, healthy, secure relationships that start with you first. So, and now the second part of what is really, really is important to create a secure attachment style, to become secure and go away from this anxiety, insecure, driven place, is repetition and emotion. As I mentioned, how important that really is. So here's the deal. To heal the anxious attachment style, you need to break that cycle. And this is where repetition and emotion really comes to play. These two things are really the secret sauce to rewire your attachment style. So why repetition? Think of it like this. Your subconscious mind is, like a sponge. soaking up the experiences and emotions throughout your life and through your upbringing. The more emotionally charged a memory is, the more deeply it gets embedded into your brain. And every time something similar happens, your brain responds in the same way without even thinking about it. It's automatic. So if your caregivers or your parent, let's say, has been like hot and cold when you were growing up, when you were like 2 or 3 years old, this felt like a huge emotional threat to your nervous system, right? When you were a baby, you're really relying on your caregivers for your safety and survival. So if your mom has been maybe very anxious because she's very overwhelmed, she's hypersensitive, she had a lot of other things going on, how life is, you as a baby couldn't understand that. So you then create an abandonment wound because you feel she might abandon you. It's like a perceived abandonment happening, even though she's not going to abandon you, but this is what your little baby brain thinks and creates this meaning. And you also then probably create this unworthiness wound because as babies and as children, we take everything personal. We don't understand why our mom can't be all the time there for us. And we take it personal and we think we're not good enough, we're not worthy of love, love has to be earned. So maybe you realize, hey, whenever you cry, your mom gives attention to you, you get more love and more warmth. Then maybe later in life, your parents get divorced. Again, it's a huge emotional experience. This is not a repetitive experience, this is just a one-off impact usually. But again, the emotional charge here is so heavy that it still shape and reinforce your anxious attachment style and could even create it if this was something that happened very, very early on when you were very young. So when, you repeatedly tell yourself like new empowering beliefs, especially with emotions behind them, that's how you begin to break the cycle bit by bit. You can start this with beliefs by rewiring your beliefs. It's not just about, repeating something once or telling yourself extreme positive things. No, it's something that has to create really an emotional impact for yourself, a feeling, and then you want to repeat it over and over again. For example, when I started shifting my anxious attachment style, I would replace things like people don't like me or I will be abandoned with I am loved and I'm good enough just as I am. This felt first a little bit unrealistic, so I actually started using bridge thoughts first, more neutral, believable thoughts. So I started from people going to leave me to like perhaps people who like me will actually stay. Something like this that feels more realistic and that is more neutral and that I can actually believe, because this created a much more emotional impact for me. It created much more realistic feeling because I could not believe that people will stay. When I was really anxious, I didn't believe that my partner would always be there for me and will always stay. So I couldn't create this feeling I wanted. So that's why it's important to start with thoughts that you can actually believe. And that's why I think affirmations are BS, because they didn't work for me, they don't work for my clients. It can actually make it all worse. It can delay your healing journey, and if they don't create any emotions, maybe even the opposite emotions. For me, I felt very cringe to tell myself I'm amazing and lovable and worthy and good enough if I didn't feel like this at all. So for me, it was very important to not tell myself all of these unicorn, amazing, beautiful things if I've never felt like this. Especially growing up, I never really remember many compliments about my looks, anything like this. So I was very insecure about my looks. And in general about life, my dad was a huge pessimist, while my mom was more like a realist. So nobody was very optimistic in my life. So that also created things for me that affirmations don't work with me. But again, if they work for you and you can already create more positive, believable sentences, then go for them, because it's important that you can believe them. That's the most important key here. So you want to create, emotional experiences for yourself. And you can start with your thoughts and your beliefs. And beliefs are created through repetition. Like a belief is a thought you repeat over and over again until it becomes automatic. Again, emotions are really key here. It is, the emotional charge that makes these new beliefs really stick, and to change your subconscious mind from these old beliefs to really new beliefs, from people will always leave me and I'm not good enough, to people will stay, people that are meant to stay will stay, and I am good enough as I am. I don't need my partner to reassure me. I feel already emotionally safe, I can handle any challenge that comes ahead, even if we have a conflict, even if things are uncertain. So think about it like this. Every time you say something with emotion, with things you can actually believe and feel deep down inside, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. You're teaching your brain that safety and love are, the new normal, and it takes time rewire your old automatic responses. But also important is that you then align actions with these beliefs. Again, because safety is not just created by thoughts and beliefs, you have to align then your actions to with it. Again, repetition and emotion doesn't just happen with your beliefs and with your thoughts. You have to then align your actions with this as well. So now let's talk about your nervous system. Every time you go through an emotional charge experience, like anxiety or not hearing from your partner, your nervous system is being activated, right? It's like an alarm system, going off. And this is another reason why repetition and emotion is so powerful. When you keep telling yourself new calm thoughts with emotions, and then you're taking aligned actions with this, you are also reprogramming your nervous system to feel safe of anxiety. It's like turning down the volume on your fears, turning it up to, create a sense of inner security. So it's not that, for example, if you're used to always respond to your partner's text immediately and wanting him to reply to you, and you always reply to him, telling yourself, what, I don't need his response right now. And the more you really teach your brain through thoughts and then actions by not responding right away, you teach yourself more and more that you're safe through repetition and emotion. And you can visualize, for example, yourself, your future self, that your future is safe and you are still loved, and you're not this anxious person anymore, and you have this family and friends surrounding you. This is also how you could rewire your nervous system, through visualization, because this is also activating emotions. For example, I'm listening to guided meditations. I'm writing and scripting out my own future, very specific to myself, because if I write down things I want for my future, it's activating more emotions, more specific emotions, rather than listening to a general guided meditation on YouTube. So that's actually what I'm teaching also my clients in my one-on-one coaching, how to be very specific and to activate these emotions in very different ways, because some people like meditation, some people like breath work, some people like more journaling, some people talk more out loud. Everyone is different in how they process informations, how they learn, and that's very specific for you. So that's very important. We know in my coaching containers, may this be through texting support, me being your personal coach in your pocket, basically guiding you through this, giving you lots of brainstorm pieces, what you can do on a day-to-day, or on our coaching calls, on our bi-weekly coaching calls. There are so many things you can do for this. Anyway, now the third section of today. Everything else we talked about was more like the foundation, how to rewire your anxious attachment style through awareness first. Then we talked about thought work and the emotional work that is needed, the actions. And now I want to talk to you about habits, because habits is the last missing piece. Because first, everything is more conscious work. You have to know what you have to do daily to really challenge your thoughts, take new actions, to communicate in a different way, to fill your cup differently, to regulate your nervous system, to breathe slower, to do some breath work, anything like this. But in the end, you want to really create the secure version of yourself, meaning you want to make it all automatic. Here's why it's important. It's actually not about habits itself. It's about making it automatic, everything you're doing right now. I want you to picture this. At first, you're deciding consciously to make, healthier choices for your life. You're thinking, okay, I'll journal today, or I'll meditate, and I'll practice deep breathing, or express myself through boundaries, things like this, You're putting in effort daily, and you have to remind yourself to do this daily. But over time, your actions start to become second nature. And when they do, you've reached the real transformation. You don't have to really think about it anymore. And it's just because now that is who you are. My clients ask me all the time, so how long do I do this for? When the moment you realize I don't want to stop doing this anymore, I am actually having fun and I love doing this. This is actually in the moment when everything clicks, because when you think as yourself as a secure, confident version of yourself, worthy of love, and actions just come naturally and they flow naturally, and you're just doing everything automatically. And it's the beginning is going to feel challenging. You'll have to consciously work on it, but as you see progress, you will really experience less anxiety, more peace, and you will want to never go back to the old version. And I always compare to, like, if you want to create a diet change, let's say you want to lose 5 kilos, a lot of people do it wrong as well. They ask, how long until I lose 5 kilos? So they do this crash diet for 2 weeks or 10 days. But then the yo-yo effect, they're going to put on weight again in the end until they realize the key difference is actually becoming this healthy version of yourself, who actually thinks differently, who wants to move their body every day, who buys and shops differently when they go to the supermarket, to the shops. When they buy groceries, they are just this version who doesn't crave chocolate every day as a way to escaping their emotions. They might have, a few pieces there every now and then, but they're not restricting themselves, but they just have this overall balanced lifestyle. They are this secure, healthy version of themselves. So they love working out, they love being more active, and that's just who they are now. And that's kind of the same thing as if you want to become securely attached. Eventually, you don't want to look back anymore to the anxious you. You don't want to engage into negative habits anymore. You don't want to keep texting your partner or ask them if they're okay, and you're not this anxious, hyper vigilant person anymore. Eventually, you just are so happy that you do this daily breathwork session, that you're journaling, that you automatically treat yourself with kindness, and do things that really fill your own cup. You don't want to look back anymore, and it all becomes automatic because you step into this secure version of yourself, and it's not a different person. It's more who you are already without the sabotage. And right now, you might be the person who is always on fight or flight, always in this dysregulated nervous system state. But if you are stepping into the secure version of yourself, it's just you already, but without this constant dysregulation, with you in your safe and connected place. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, now the 3 habits that help me really create this secure version of myself is, first of all, again, thoughts. Thoughts and beliefs are very, very important. Thoughts are super powerful. Thoughts create our emotions. Time an anxious thought pops up. For example, you feel anxious when your partner doesn't text you back, or when they're rejecting a kiss, or when they're withdrawing. Label it, name it. Say, this is my anxious thought, this is my cognitive distortion. If you have a second name, just say, this is my anxious Annie or my anxious Noelle, and then meet them with empathy and curiosity. You can even pull them out and put them in front of you so you can read them, and just create a distance from your thought to yourself. Why am I feeling this way? What is this thought trying to tell me? Is this true? And really become curious, challenge the thought, because here's the thing, emotions are always valid, and emotions you can always feel, and they're always true, but our thoughts are not. So it's always okay to feel anxious, but the thing is, our thoughts create our anxiety. So you want to question actually our thoughts. You want to have empathy for your emotions, but you want to questions, hey, you know what? Is this thought that's creating my anxiety actually true here? So you want to be as curious as possible about your thoughts. So a habit is either doing it in everyday moments when you have an anxious thought, to just pop it up in front of you, become curious, label it, and challenge it. Or you can do it every day, like a thought transfer by transferring all your thoughts on a piece of paper, just letting everything flow naturally and really becoming aware of these are my thoughts. We have lots of thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, and if you're not aware of what you're thinking, you're letting your thoughts create your emotions, and which is negative as well if your thoughts are negative. So that is the one thing. And the second thing is, the second habit I recommend is an emotional habit. Again, emotions are everything. We do anything based out of an emotion, right? So learn to process your emotions. I teach this really in depth in my courses and in my one-on-one coaching sessions, but you can do this as well. So instead of really bottling them up, feel them. Where are they? Breathe through them. Name your emotions. I feel. A part of me feels. Never say I am this anxious person. Rather say I feel anxious. I feel mad. I feel abandoned. I feel insecure. And when you're triggered, like, let's say, instead of immediately reacting or trying to fix things and push the emotion away and do the thing, rather pause and give yourself space and give yourself permission to sit with your feelings. I have this, 90-second trick where you tell yourself, just sit with yourself for 90 seconds and try to process your emotions, because research has shown it only takes 90 seconds to 5 minutes to process your emotions. So if you just tell yourself, I'm just going to sit here for 90 seconds, and even if I don't know exactly how to process my emotions yet, at least I'm going to allow myself to feel this. I'm going to be just curious where it is in my body. I'm going to breathe through it and just try this before you react to anything, before you try to say, I don't want to feel this. Because when you reject something, it just becomes bigger and it explodes over you. By acknowledging the emotion, saying something like, I feel anxious right now, and then check on your body. Where do I feel this? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat? Is it in my hands? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my head? Do I get a migraine or a headache? Is it just a little bit pulsating? And then breathe. And this habit really helps you to stop, being swept away by this huge emotional wave and just riding the wave. And the third habit is about taking actions. And that could be, for example, by setting boundaries or expressing yourself or anything to fulfill your own needs. This way, setting boundaries and expressing yourself is usually the last tool I recommend, but you can just learn to, what do I need and how can I fill my cup myself here? And it could be just by setting boundaries. It could be setting inner boundaries as well to yourself. And really connect to your needs, to your values. Ask yourself, what do I actually need? Do I need reassurance? Do I need connection? Do I need validation? And then try to give this to yourself first. And the next step is you can then learn to, communicate your needs, ask for support from your partner, because healing your anxious attachment style, again, is not just through your thoughts, not just through emotions, it's also through learning to fulfill your own needs and then expressing your needs also as additional tool to others around you. But it's also very important to learn that, because if you have an anxious attachment style, you're mostly probably used to try to get your partner to fulfill your needs. And that's key here. That's why I always say, don't just start with expressing yourself or set boundaries, because this is the last tool. But for me, in the end, this is something I was ready for that at that stage. So setting clear boundaries, like really to honor your needs and communicate them with clarity from a grounded and detached way is very important. And I've learned that after, all the emotional work, the belief work, this was very scary first, but because I've done all of the emotional and the thought work before, this was much easier at that time already. And this could mean, letting your partner know when you just also need some space, because once you start healing, you realize sometimes you also might need some quiet days. And right now you think like, I would never want space from my partner. I always want to be close to them. But once you start healing, you realize sometimes it's actually good to ask for space for yourself too. Or maybe if it's when you're invited for parties or gatherings or work things and you really can't be bothered, then you can also learn to set boundaries there in ways that feel okay for your nervous system, that don't overwhelm you completely. And all of these action habits that really create a sense of trust in yourself and your worth, and independent of anyone else's behavior. With those things, you show to yourself that you are worth it, that you have self-respect and self-love to create this safety space around you, because the boundaries are not about them, it's about you. It's about showing that you respect yourself, that you are worth it, to protect your own boundary. So, and we're at the end. I hope you loved it. Here you have it. So to heal your anxious attachment style, you need to really focus on, two things: repetition and emotion. These are the key things to really rewiring your subconscious mind and your nervous system. And the more you repeat new emotionally charged thoughts and then align them with actions, the more your brain really starts to believe them. And once your brain really starts to believe them, your nervous system follows suit. And on top of that, you need to build habits to support your identity as well. So challenging your thoughts and creating new beliefs, setting boundaries, and affirming your worth. And remember, this process isn't just a quick fix, but it is 100% worth it. Trust me, when you put in the work, your attachment style will shift and you will show up in relationships from a place of security and confidence, and not from a place of, I need this. I need them to make me feel good and feel worthy and feel good enough. And it's more of, what? This is great, but I don't need this to heal me or to make me feel amazing. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone. They might, feel similar, or anyone you could benefit from this. And if you want to go deeper in this work, I'm here to support you through my courses or one-on-one coaching containers. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of love, and change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought and action by action. And it's so worth it. Trust me. Anyway, see you next time. Bye bye. Love you.